Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Bruce.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, David. I see you're wearing orange and I'm wearing green. That's the old Irish Rovers song. My
Yeah,
father, he was orange, and my mother, she was green. It was a kind of a novelty hit in probably 1960s, I'm thinking it must have been. Of course, growing up in Newfoundland, which is very, very Irish, there was a lot of that orange and green stuff and the rivalry, let's call it a rivalry along religious grounds between Protestants and Roman Catholics.
so the orange are the
William of
Protestants.
Orange, those are the Protestants.
Those are
Yeah,
the Protestants. So, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think I might have some actually Protestant ancestors from Ireland. So it wasn't on purpose that I was wearing this, but yeah, Bruce. It was the Irish Rovers. The only song I remember is the Unicorn. There was green alligators and long neck
Right.
geese. There's humpty-back camels and chimpanzees, cats and rats and elephants. But sure as you know, the loveliest of all was the unicorn. Something like that.
Or as you're born, yeah.
Sure as you're born.
Yeah.
All right, so 6-1 for the Oilers. Absolutely dominating performance from beginning to end. Really, the game never really seemed that much in doubt or even that iffy at any times, which is kind of rare for the Oilers, right? 6-1.
Mm.
The grade
Mm.
A shots, Bruce, were 24-7 for the Oilers. And the 5 alarm chances, which have a 33% plus chance going in, 14-4 for the Oilers. Lots to like in this game. So with our 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers, we'll break protocol again, and we'll go with 2 good things each because it's pretty easy to do. What's your
Let,
first
let
good
me
thing?
double down on the scoring chances. That was our counts, and Natural Stat Trick had it a 39-17 for Edmonton on scoring chances of the garden variety type, and 17-5 for high danger chances. So they're seeing the same game that we saw. Edmonton having their way with the opposing team in this game. So
They really did. This is what a strange team these Edmontoners are, Bruce.
mhm.
This is the best version of the Edmonton Oilers, though, that we've seen, I think. Even better than the first 21 games has been the Oilers generally in these last 4 games. We're going to dig a little deeper into that with some numbers in a bit, but um, their even strength play has never come close to this, I don't think, in terms of its dominance. Their power play is still it's okay. They got a power play goal tonight, late in the game in garbage time, but the even strength play is just superlative right now. They're just playing confident, attacking hockey, and it's great to see. Woodcroft described it as coming back hard, playing hard back to the net, to their own
Mhm.
net. So
Yep.
on the back check, playing hard, and it's another way of describing the same thing in a way. Because if you're back checking and winning pucks, then you're turning them over and then going quickly on the attack again. And we're seeing both. It is it is very welcome. It is very timely, both timely and welcome. What's your first good thing, Bruce?
Yeah. Well, my first good thing is attention to detail. I thought the team was sharp on the puck for most of this game, and I never got the dread sense of foreboding that I definitely had from really an early part of Tuesday's win over Detroit, where they jumped off to the 3-0 lead and immediately fell into a deep sleep. Uh, and eventually that game wound up being a toss-up of who gets the last bounce, and the Oilers were fortunate enough to get it. Tonight, Edmonton was the dominant team from basically beginning to end, winning puck battles, surrounding the puck, good puck support, and Buffalo was just outmanned. And I thought that one of the things I liked was Edmonton's backtracking and how Buffalo didn't get odd man rushes on the counterattacks, and how there was always a second Oiler somewhere near the point of attack, with the one guy would be playing the puck, and there'd be somebody near to come and clean up the mess or make sure nothing got through for an easy chance. And they did that most of the game. I mean, Draisaitl, I thought he made one mistake that led to the penalty, not the goal, but the penalty by Cece, where he stopped coming back because he thought somebody else was going to chip it ahead to him, and he kind of cheated for offense on that play. But that was a very rare exception in this game that the Oilers were um, just sharp and on their game. And I know you're going to go into more detail on one aspect of the team that was a big part of it. So I'll let you move on with your good thing while I put the
Just
cat
it.
outside of the room.
Okay, go ahead. It what we've seen is defensive excellence in a puck moving sense in recent games, and it's been promoted by a number of defensemen who can really move the puck, starting with CC and Nurse, their top pairing. Um, you know, both both guys solid puck movers. Duncan Keith and who was Keith with? Evan Bouchard tonight.
Bouchard.
Duncan Keith and Evan Bouchard. Duncan Keith Bruce is really playing well. He really is. His defensive game has settled down a lot in the last few games, and you know, a little bit of a wobbly moment in the first shift of the game where the puck kind of went through him, but he recovered and you know, and then he made a nice stretch pass a short time later to set in Draisaitl on a break. He's playing strong hockey. Evan Bouchard's settled down a bit. He's not. He's playing better positional hockey, and his passing and shooting is has been all year long. It's been outstanding. Then, you know, on the third pairing, you had Barry and Russell. You know, Chris Russell took over from Philip Broberry, who's been sent down to Bakersfield. And all in all, I know some people are probably upset with that, and I liked much of what I saw with Broberry's game up here in Edmonton,
Mm-hmm.
especially his play in closing in the neutral zone and taking away rushes that way by breaking them up before they get started. But I think he can benefit from AHL. I think he can still, you know, he still is a little rough around the edges and a little lacking in confidence. He's getting belted around a little bit too much for my liking in the game. So I was okay with that, especially if Russell plays like this. He just played a solid Chris Russell kind of game. And Tyson Barrie, outside of one bad moment early in the game where he made a bad pinch and that helped send in Skinner on a break. Russell was also caught out on that play, I believe,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken. And but that was really on Barrie. But other than that, Tyson Barrie was strong too, and he can Tyson Barrie if he just again all of these players if they just play fundamental hockey, simple fundamental, try to keep it simple, they've got great skill. This group of players, this group of defensemen, and the strong attacking in the last four games that we've seen in this kind of A plus hockey the Oilers playing has been, I think, sprung from the back end by excellent passing, which breaks up, which is in its own way is as effective at anything as breaking up the cycle of the opposing team as anything. Because before that cycle gets going, there's a smart play with the puck often. So it's for years, Bruce, and you will recall this, especially in the decade of darkness, we just hankered for a defenseman who could pass the puck. It just
Mm-hmm.
seemed like such a and as recently as the loss to Chicago in the playoffs in 2020.
Funny.
All these years bleed together, the COVID years. And as recently as that, there was just a real sense that the Oilers they did not have the defenseman who could move the puck out of their own zone efficiently. Bruce, they have that right now. They're getting that and they have that. And with this group of forwards, it's an exciting time to be an Oilers fan. Where you know this is a good hockey team. I'm comfortable saying it again out loud after a couple of months where it was kind of iffy saying that. I'm confident and comfortable saying it.
Yeah, they're got the puck moving well. All those years you're talking about the decade of darkness, and Oilers fans had a hankering for one player in particular, Tyson Barrie. He was a common player high on the wish list because he used to come in here and kill the Oilers with Colorado that he played with at that time. And it's funny how that turns because now the Oilers have Tyson Barrie, and it seems like there's a lot of people that wouldn't mind seeing the last of him. But you know, you got to appreciate the stuff that he does well, and a lot of that's with the puck on the stick, or when some the other Oilers have control of the puck, and his ability to find the holes. I mean, that goal he scored in the third period, garbage time, mind you, but Puck went on Warren Fogel's stick of all players, and he made a beautiful cross seam pass, but Barry had snuck into the open spot, and when that pass got to him, he made absolutely no mistake with a one-timer in the near side, just inside the near side post. And that's a player that he's got positives and negatives both. And again, I keep returning to this. You got to look at both. You can't just sort of say, well, he did that wrong, he did that wrong, he did that well. Yeah, and he also did this right and that right. He does some things right. So
Uh, it was funny how irritated it made people, annoyed it made some people last year when he led the league in point scoring. Like, it just really bothered some people.
those
And,
second assists, man, they shouldn't count.
yeah. So this year, I wish he was still leading the league for defensemen in
Yeah.
points. Uh, he's not. He's got 28 points, I think. Yeah, 28 points in 52 games. Bouchard's actually the leading defenseman, 32 points in 60 games. Nurse with 27 points in 54 games. So Darnell Nurse is now plus 13 uh, goals, official goals plus minus, which, not a stat that I refer to very much, but can be indicative of strong play. You just never really know. I would say that Nurse. I would say actually, if I had to say who has been the Oilers' best defenseman this year, I would say Cody Ceci, with Darnell Nurse in second place. But he is in second place on a team that's in the playoffs. This is second best, playing tough minutes. It's pretty good.
Playing them together right now, that's one thing that's really changed is that uh, Manson and Woodcroft have put the pairing together of Nurse with Cece, and I think Nurse looks more comfortable with Cece as more of an all-rounder to play with,
Yeah,
as opposed to the more erratic puck movers Barry or Bouchard that he was shuttling between for the most part earlier. I think they've really gone with a strong first pairing, and then they're kind of two third pairings or two A and two B, I guess that. But Nurse and Cece are absorbing a lot of the heavier minutes, and the other guys are cleaning up against the weaker competition, and it seems to be working all right now.
yeah. I had wanted to see that pairing earlier in the year after
Remember,
Bouchard and Barry were struggling, and initially it didn't work out that well. But as they've come together, as they're getting used to each other, these are the two best defensemen on each side for the Edmonton Oilers, and the two best
agree.
defensemen on the Oilers. So if you're going to play guys, the majority, like more minutes than anybody else, play these two guys. And Keith and Cece never really did seem to have a ton of chemistry for whatever reason. Maybe it was just Keith getting used to a new city, new system of play, new teammates. I mean, he really is coming around, Duncan Keith. I think that's a fair comment. Maybe not everyone's going to agree with that, but that's what I see, and I think that the numbers that we track support that view of them. That he's, especially on defense, he's finally getting it together and not leaking so many chances against. What's your second good thing, Bruce?
Yeah, I'm going to single out Kyler Yamamoto tonight, extending his personal goal scoring streak to all 4 games of the current homestand. And he took care of that business early in the game when he took advantage of some nifty dangling from Connor McDavid, who, when I saw the play live, I thought McDavid had sort of lost the puck and it
Yeah,
just sort of floated over to Yamamoto, and he just jumped on it and fired a great one-timer snapshot. Where did that come from, Kyler? More, please. Because, his shot, the power in his shot hasn't really been there. Well, that one just ripped by Craig Anderson right
yeah,
inside the post. And it was a shot of a confident player. And Kyler's got every reason to be confident right now, playing with the great McDavid and starting to pot goals on a regular basis. So he's up to 15 on the season all of a sudden. And that's after game 61, which isn't quite the three-quarter mark. That's a 20-goal pace for a guy that's, not much involved in the power play for most of the year and getting his goals at even strength. And, they were coming few and far between for a while, but now this little streak has really sort of uh, bumped his total up nicely. And what's he got? 12 assists as well.
he
He
does
got a
12
goal,
assists. So he's
first assist on the second goal. And
yeah,
lucky one, but
he's on the second goal assist. He kind of won a
yeah.
battle, didn't he, in front of the net? Like I
Yeah,
thought.
it went off his skate in the right
Yeah,
direction, I guess, but he was in there battling and he was battling all night. He only had the one shot, and only one shot attempt, but he had 3 hits. He blocked 2 shots at the other end, and I thought he was sort of in the joining the battle uh, in all zones, and I liked his overall game.
He's now fourth on the Oilers in for goal scoring behind.
Hmm.
So Draisaitl has 40, McDavid 34, Hyman has 20 goals,
Hmm.
and Yamamoto has 15. So that's if obviously Evander Kane's really coming on and putting up the goals, but man, Bruce, the Oilers have two good top lines. That the McDavid line with Kane and Yamamoto is flying, but so this is the line now. As everyone knows, I wanted to see the Dynamite line together this year a lot, and I have for some time, and I mentioned it constantly ad nauseum, and they didn't play well when they got together. It didn't work out, and I'm still a little bit mystified about why that is, but it didn't. They just never connected very well. They never had the magic. They just seemed to lose their hunger, and they weren't digging pucks and keeping control of the puck like they had the first time they were together. One other line though this year that I have wanted to see together, and I've mentioned this before, was Draisaitl, Hyman, and Puljujarvi. And they finally got together. I think this was their first real run tonight,
Hmm.
and they were dominant, especially early in the game. And between them, they created 7 even strength grade A shots, 4 for Draisaitl, 2 for Hyman, and 1 for Puljujarvi, who was a little bit off, who seemed a little bit slow
Yes,
and might have
rusty.
missed some scoring chances, but they outscored the opposition 2-0 in the game. They had one incredible shift in the second period, which was 45 seconds long in the offensive zone. It wasn't one of these historic minute long shifts that we've seen, but it was 45 seconds long of brilliant uh, puck protection, passing. And this is what each of these are big players known for their puck protecting and passing. And this is why I wanted to see them together, because I think they can do this consistently. And it's totally, I think, demoralizing, Bruce, for other teams when you have shifts like that against you in a game. And of course it ended very well with Darnell Nurse moving in and firing in the puck kind of on a broken play a little bit. He fired it once, it hit CC, then he fired it again and he put it in through a double screen of Buffalo defenders. But this is a line. They scored another goal when off the face-off, Hyman won a physical battle and he put it to Draisaitl, and Draisaitl got two great shots and he put in the second one. In the first period, they came close to scoring. Draisaitl broke down the wing, and Hyman put in a shot on the same shift, I think, even
Hmm.
through a screen by Puljujarvi.
Yes.
This line, um, this line could work. It's got a lot of promise. And Bruce, for hockey teams to advance in the playoffs, you know this. They need lines that are better than the sum of the parts. They need lines that are magic. And the Edmonton Oilers have not had that this year at all, I don't think. They haven't had a line or two lines that have had that chemistry, that magic. And right now what we're seeing are two lines coming together that have that. And not only that, they have a third line center in the name of Ryan Nugent Hopkins, who does his own magic on the power play, especially, but he's a pretty darn good third line center coming back. So that we could have a third line with, take your pick, McLeod, Ryan, Fogle on the wing, and Ryan Nugent Hopkins at center. Things are looking up.
Hmm. Yeah, that dries out a line. There was one long shift in the second period where the two Buffalo forwards both broke their sticks, and it
Yeah.
was like sort of like a 5-on-3, but there were guys there, and there was
Was that
that.
Drysaddle's line though, Bruce? Was that?
No, it
I think it
wasn't.
was Hyman.
It
Yeah,
it
that
wasn't,
it
and
was.
that I'm getting to
Yeah.
that point.
Okay.
Those guys had full control. They passed the puck around the perimeter. They kept having the puck. They kept trying to shoot it. They couldn't get their shots through. They never got the puck down in close to the net. And after about a minute of Oilers completely controlling the puck but not getting any shots, there was a whistle, and I'm thinking, well, Buffalo's lucky to get away from that one. And then right off the subsequent face-off, it was uh, the puck went off the draw forward. Hyman won that battle. Draisaitl bowled to the net front, fired a shot, stayed on it, was able to pot the rebound while getting taken down to the ice. And the funny thing was that second play took 6 seconds and they got two shots and a goal after like literally 60 or more seconds of, and it just the old GTTFN, right? That Draisaitl and Hyman, but they took it to the net. That's how McDavid scored too, was by going hard
Yeah.
to the net and cleaning up the garbage in close. They don't all have to be pretty. Well, Draisaitl actually was fairly pretty for his 40th of the season. And that line, they were unlucky not to score more. I mean, Draisaitl, he made a number of, he made one great backhand pass right across the slot to, was it Bouchard? He made one,
Oh yeah.
he set Hyman in on a clear-cut breakaway, and Hyman
Almost.
sandwiched it off the
Yeah.
glass. But there was lots of chances, and Puljujärvi, as you say, was just a little bit rusty and just sort of it's sort of a split second slow to react to situations. But
I didn't mind when the two Sabres broke their sticks. First of all, I can't remember seeing that. Like that's a pretty rare thing to happen.
for that long,
And I
yeah.
didn't mind them actually, because the worst thing you don't want to happen is a bad shot where the goalie makes an easy save, he gloves it down, right? Or it's a bad shot that rebounds through. So you have a great opportunity to make a cross seam pass there, but it takes working the puck around, and they did, Bruce, get a great cross seam pass, and the only thing was McLeod couldn't finish on it. It went off his stick, and he didn't get a shot. So they did work their way to the shot that they were looking for, the five alarm shot. And so I was actually okay with how they handled that. I thought it was the right
Right.
thing to do, because the last thing you want is like firing off someone's shin pads and that they can change the ice or miss the net or have the goalie make an easy save. So nonetheless, the brutal efficiency of Leon Draisaitl in the next shift
Mhm.
was
It
very
stood
pleasing.
out.
It did. What's your
This
bad?
perimeter, none of this perimeter stuff. Let's take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My bad thing is a little bit too much deference shown by players in excellent shooting position to go for that extra pass. And I thought there was four or five. In fact, I know there was four or five situations in this game where Oilers had Buffalo outnumbered around their net, two on one, and they wound up not getting a shot. I mean, there was even a 2-on-0, David, where McDavid came in on a breakaway and Kane joined him, and McDavid tried to feed it over to Kane. They said that defenseman touched it. I'm not sure. Kane, it went under the end of Kane's stick, and they wound up with nothing out of that. And then there was one where I thought Draisaitl should have shot, and he passed it off to Puljujärvi. And then there was another one where Draisaitl should have passed to Puljujärvi, but then Puljujärvi tried to pass it back to Draisaitl instead of shooting. If Leon gives you the puck on a 2-on-1, he probably wants you to shoot. And yes, I didn't shoot. And oh man, there was a couple more of them. There was just too many plays of that type in the game. And I mean, this is a detail, but this is a detail that could be improved on. And there wasn't too much to knock in that game, but wasting chances without a shot is always, it's a pet peeve of a lot of people, I'm sure. And sometimes, the extra pass, like, shoot, oh, nice pass, because the puck's
Cool.
in the
Yeah.
net because the
Yeah.
guy's fooled everybody who thinks he should shoot, and he set up somebody at the back door. And those passes don't always click, but you know what? If you have a 20% if you have a 20% shot, but you have a 75% chance at making a pass for a 50% shot, that's probably better to make the pass. But when the pass misses, then it looks bad. So there's a little bit of that, but I just thought there was a couple of times they just need to let fly. You know what? One of the things that can happen on a 2-on-1, you shoot the puck and your teammate's going for the net. It's called a rebound. And it's also called chaos that is created by the original shot. And sometimes the rebound is easier to put in than even the perfect cross seam pass. So
Yeah. I the first power play, Bruce, it really stood out for me in terms of overpassing the puck. I just thought, as soon as I saw the power play go to work, it just struck me. Okay, here's the reason the power play failed.
mm,
Here's the reason that for 2 months this power play could get nothing done. They were back to that old habit of moving. Like they had, especially early on, there was one or two moments when they could have shot and they didn't.
Right.
And the power play success, the increased power play activity that they've had in the last few games where the power plays look better has been because they've had Bouchard back there hammering it away and Draisaitl's been shooting it. They've all been shooting it. And they just got back to the fancy passing. And um,
Perimeter passing, they're just
yeah.
sort of taking time off the clock because they're going around, the center defenseman to the two guys on the two wings, but nobody's ever seeming to take it into the middle. They're waiting for, I don't know what exactly, but sometimes it's frustrating.
So Mike Smith was the first star. I thought he played okay, but he didn't
Yeah.
get much traffic. He didn't get much action. There was a couple really tough chances in the first period. Grade A shots.
Mm-hmm.
One by Tage. There's Skinner. The Skinner shot obviously was a hard, like he's a sniper and he's in there alone and he's got all kinds of time to pick a spot and Smith stopped that. But a moment later, Tage Thompson breaks down the wing and right from the inner slot puts one in and it hit Smith's shoulder. So there were a couple really big saves.
Mm-hmm.
I would have given it to Draisaitl out of the first star in that game, and I wouldn't have been in. It's not. I don't think it's close. I just thought he was fantastic. His passing all game long, he
Mm-hmm.
made incredible passes that were, he dazzled. He absolutely dazzled. My bad thing isn't that though. It's I'm just complaining about that. My bad thing is the stick from Vinny Hinostroza to Connor McDavid's face, and I just sick of it. Obviously, it's just sick of it. I just I he gets too much negative attention, and when they start to get the stick up in his face, I just think like it's just an a-hole move by maybe he didn't mean it. I don't know. It just bugs me.
Yeah, it's distressing to see, especially when you see a replay of a stick under the visor.
Yeah.
That's that can have really disastrous, catastrophic even results when a stick gets under the visor, as this one did coming up. But it was just actually after it hit him in the face, and it kind of caught the visor on the way up. But fortunately, there was no stick to eye contact, which was this, when I first saw the replay, I thought, oh no, uh, seen that movie
Yeah.
before too many times. But uh, I don't think so. He had a band-aid down on his chin at the end of it, and they didn't need him after that. They were right to hold him out. Other than probably everybody would like to see him play one shift just so they knew he was
Just so you know,
perfectly
I think
fine.
yeah, I think he's probably okay. I don't know. I don't know if we've heard from Jay Woodcroft. I didn't listen yet, but
When you have a 6-1 lead, let the bullpen clean up the game in long relief. You don't need to hit any more homers. So yeah.
yeah.
Well,
What is
you
your
mentioned you
Go
mentioned
ahead.
Mike Smith, star, and I mean it's ridiculous that a goalie be first star out of that game,
Yeah.
because it was a game that was dominated by the team. I didn't mind him getting picked as one of the stars. I thought he looked good, and I thought his puck handling looked really good. He was really coming out hard, fielding pucks sharply and moving them, making good passes, hitting the teammates with his passes, and that's something very different that we haven't seen for a while. Because on those occasions Smith's been in, he hasn't been sharp. And Koskinen's puck handling, the less we say about that, the better. But it adds an element. When you talk about the puck movement out of the back end by the defenseman, well, when you got the goalie getting the puck to the defenseman with room to turn around and find a target and send it along, it's going to make them all look good. So I will tip my hat to that aspect of Smith. And he was solid. He was good,
He
say
looked
more.
healthier. He looked like he
Yes.
was moving okay. Didn't like he looked like there's
Physically
been
better.
games this year where he just like what the heck is going on? He doesn't look right. But he finally looked actually like he was. And to hand it to him, Bruce.
Mhm.
Listen, if we had done a poll, I didn't do a poll. If we had done a cult of hockey poll, I'm sure there like 90% of the fans would have said like, no, we don't want to see Mike Smith again. It maybe at least 80%. And I think it would have been about 90%. They've had enough of Mike Smith. They want to see a different goalie. He came in there and he made a couple stops on 5 alarm shots in the first period when the game was close. And he shoved it down our throats of the critics, right? He
Played good.
came up with a winning game. So good for you, Mike Smith. Good for Mike Smith. Way to go. May you do this for the rest of the season, every single game, sir.
Yeah, no, it was just he looked way healthier.
Yeah.
There were times early in the season where he'd go down to make a save and him trying to regain his feet. He reminded me of me getting out of bed in the morning. Cranky old man, sore back, trying to stand up straight. Anyway, it was he looked way more sort of physically loose and comfortable, and that's good to see.
He had five pretty iffy starts in a row
Lost
before
four
this
of them.
game, and so this was a nice turnaround. So that could be big. It's obviously huge for the Oilers if Smith and Koskinen are both healthy. There is a chance. There's a chance the Oilers could get some decent or even good goaltending for the rest of the year. It doesn't look like they're going to trade for a goalie, so here we are. This is what we're
Yeah.
relying on. So we better be, might as well start cheering because ain't
Hmm.
nothing going to change. I guess you can always hope for Skinner to come back if that's and that may well happen, right? That's in the cards if things don't work out with Smith or with Koskinen. If one of the two, you know, gets hurt or doesn't play well, Skinner will be back. What's
Well,
your number, Bruce?
he's
Oh,
more of a
sorry.
plan C now,
Yeah.
Skinner, than he was last year, especially the year before when they had just the two guys and they were going to live or die with him, and they died with him both years. So at least Skinner is much more prepared to be an NHL goalie, but I'm almost certain we'll see one of the veterans or both the veterans in the playoffs, and I'm starting to become more confident about those again. So my number, I'm going to go with 2, 3, and 14. That is 2 goals, 3 assists, and 14 shots on net by the Oilers' six defensemen in this game. Really strong offensive performance by the D, and the guys taking the shots are the guys you might expect. Nurse with 5, Barry with 4, Bouchard with 4, and Keith Cece and Russell just one among the three of them. So those are the guys you probably want shooting the puck and racking up the points and being involved in the offensive game. In the previous 14 games, the Oilers had 2 goals from defensemen, and one of them was like a 180-foot empty netter by Nurse in the Winnipeg game, and the other one was Cody Cece got a big goal going to the net against Washington last week. But once in a while, you need you talk about your bottom six scoring. Well, if you get your back six contributing to the offense as well, I mean, there's a night where the defensemen scored 2 goals, one each for Barry and Nurse, and the team allowed one. Well, you're going to win that game 100% of the time now, aren't you? So anyway, kudos to the D-men for bringing it offensively. And I mean, you talked about their puck movement in their own zone, but I thought they were effective also in Buffalo's zone.
They were indeed. Yeah, it would be interesting to look up probably, but there's been a lot of injuries. So, like, if you look at total points for the defense, it could be a little misleading because Nurse has been out, Keith's been out, Cece's been
Yep.
out. Um, but it might be interesting to look at that even strength kind of totals. Um, Barry, I think, yeah, Barry's been out too. Um, so my number, Bruce, is 40 to 19, and that is the number of five alarm shots the Oilers have had compared to the opposition in the last four games. 40 to 19. They've
Wow.
doubled up in terms of five alarm shots are just they're the equivalent of breakaways.
Super
That's how
dangerous. Yeah.
often they're 33% plus chance of going in, according to our estimation when we watch them. And they've been so they had 14. It was 14-4 against Washington, 11-4 against Tampa, 11-7 against Detroit, and it was again 14-4 tonight
Oh,
against Buffalo. So they played two strong teams and two weaker teams. And this dominance, what I call their A plus game, which emerged against Washington. So now it's four games. It's a little bit bigger of a sample size that we're seeing. It's not enough to say, oh, the Oilers have definitely turned a corner here. But with the talent that we see on the team, I think very real talent, players with established track records of success and production. This this is a team. It frustrates me when the Oilers go into Calgary, for instance. That was the last game they lost. And the 5 alarm shots in that game were 5 for the Oilers and 7 for Calgary, by the way. So
Mhm.
when the Oilers go into a team and they just don't compete, it just bothers me because I think the Oilers are as good a team as the Calgary Flames. And um,
I don't.
they should be able to go in there and play that team and beat that team in my estimation of the Oilers. I think they can do it. So this is what I want to see, obviously, as an
Mhm.
Oilers fan, and I'm glad I'm seeing it, and we are seeing it. And I didn't break out the even strength numbers here, but I think they're just as dominant.
Yeah.
This is mostly coming at even strength, which is a
Yes.
new thing for the Oilers this year. They're really getting it done there, and that's even strength play is crucial.
Yeah, Woodcroft. That's one of the parts of the Oilers game, and of course, it's the biggest part. It's 5-on-5. It's three-quarters of the game typically, or even more. And the Oilers are winning that part of the game under Woodcroft. Anyway, the 4 games you mentioned are the first 4 games of the current 5-game homestand, and you think, well, if you're got 40 5 alarm shots and it's going to score on a third of them, that's like 12 or 13 goals. That's a lot of goals to be getting that. Well, you count up the homestand, they got 4 on Washington, 4 on Tampa Bay, 7 on Detroit, now 6 on Buffalo, 21 goals in 4 games. And all of a sudden now the offense is starting to cook with gas.
Yeah.
So but they're earning those goals. It's not like they're just getting bounces and stuff is going their way. They're creating highly dangerous scoring chances, and they're putting a fair number of them away.
So one more game against New Jersey on this current homestand, and this is the game that scares me. I was actually pretty confident tonight because
Hmm.
I thought the Detroit game was probably pretty humbling for the Oilers to
Yeah,
be up 3-0. It probably felt like a loss, and it probably felt like a lot of players probably felt like they had screwed up after that game, were
yeah,
kicking themselves and thinking, I got to do better.
yeah,
And now after this, this run of good play, like let's see what happens against New Jersey. It's a game again that's 2 points because their schedule is tough after
yeah,
New Jersey. The rest of the year, it's a tough schedule.
yeah.
It's probably one of the toughest in the Western Conference, if not the entire NHL. And they're on this hot streak. They're dominant. And can they keep it up? Can they keep this thing going?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. They've got all 3 of their games left with Colorado, who are merely in first place overall in the league, and the Oilers haven't played them yet. So that's part of the more taxing schedule down the stretch. Well, we looked at this homestand with us. First 2 games are going to be pretty tough, and then the last 3, you know, in theory, those are winnable games. And here we are, having won those first 2, and having uh, bent but not quite broken against Detroit. And then tonight, they looked like they actually learned from that and just paid a lot more attention to detail in the second half of the game. So lots of positive arrows right now, and a long way to go yet, of course. But we're now up to that was game 61, and the Oilers are up to
72 points.
72 points. Okay, yeah, 11 games over 500. After 21 games, they were 11 over 500 at 16-5, and so now we're at what 34, 23, and 4. I think that's right, and they are so
Seven games
they've just
above.
gone 500 since that December 1st when they were 16-5. But they're way below. I mean, they had that 2-11-2 run, and they haven't quite erased it, uh, but they've made up most of the deficit from that span.
Hey, we saw another choice Tippett or Woodcroft timeout tonight.
Hmm.
McDavid had just rushed up the ice, was tired, and he called the timeout before the power play. It was a really
Drew the
smart move by
penalty.
the
Hmm.
coach. Good, like, why didn't that? I didn't dislike Dave Tippett's coaching, the way he handled the team. Like, by the time McClellan left, I was done, and I was kind of always on the fence with Tippett because he had great success, really strong success for two and
Hmm.
a quarter years, and then it just all fell apart. But one thing I didn't like was the timeout thing. He just never called a timeout when it seemed like an apt moment to do so. And here's Woodcroft, power play. Your star's tired. Call a timeout. burn the timeout, rest them up, and get out there, try to score a goal, put the game away. I really like the move.
Yeah, well, there's no point in banking them, and the funny thing is, you see a coach hold their timeout. They don't need to hold it now for a coach's challenge, so that's gone away. But you see a coach saying, "Well, I might need it in the last minute of the game," and then you get to the last minute of the game, and one coach calls his timeout, and then there's another whistle, and the other coach calls his timeout, and you're going, "Well, whose advantage is it really when both coaches maybe are going to use it? Use your timeout when it's to your specific advantage. Whenever that may
Yeah,
happen in the game, use it to your advantage." And he did that there, even as the power play itself really didn't get a lot done thereafter. But the message from the coach was pretty clear. This is a crucial time of the game, and we want to have our best out there and playing their best. So that's the kind of thing that I think filters through to the team eventually.
so the Oilers have one game in hand on Los Angeles, and they're 2 points back. They
Nice.
have one game in hand on Vegas, and they're 4 points ahead. Vancouver has played the same number of games as the Oilers, and they're 5 points back. So that's the race. The Oilers are in a good spot, goodish spot, but these things can quickly. You get a couple losses, and it quickly goes away. Um, Eichel, I guess, went out in the third period and didn't come back for Vegas tonight.
Oh
So
yeah.
we'll see.
Well, Kings won their game 3-0 over LA, so it's back to 4 points behind, but with two games in hand. So
Oh, there you go.
it's probably not in the standings there yet, David, but it's
Let me just see now if it is. Yeah, I'm reading off the. Well, just the.
oh,
I
and
think they're going to catch the Kings, Bruce.
Vegas is leading Florida 4-3 late in the third period, so
uh,
they're desperate after a horrible road trip where they lost all the
well,
games in regulation. But hopefully
if they
Florida will
come back.
unleash their high-powered offense when they need it down the stretch here.
All right, could tighten up all of a sudden, like I see, So
Well, the thing about winning your games is that if the other team loses, you've gained 2 points on them. If the other team wins, you haven't lost anything to them. So you've avoided disaster by looking at taking care of your own business. And not every night it's going to be, well, we win and everybody else that we're battling with loses, like happened a couple nights ago. Tonight they just merely held serve. They got the win, and they didn't sort of give back the 2 points they made last time. And overall they're inching forward.
inchworm. All right. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for talking tonight.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.